We begin tonight with discoveries that will shed more light on Ohio's maritime history. Lake Erie continues to yield long-held secrets about shipping and sailing from more than 100 years ago. During the past several years, the Cleveland Underwater Explorers, or CLUE, announced the discovery of 3 shipwrecks at the bottom of the lake with one confirmed identity. It's the Margaret Olwill, a steam barge which sank off the coast near Lorain in 1899, killing 8 people. Here to talk about the shipwrecks and the discoveries are David VanZandt. He's the director and chief archaeologist with CLUE, and we're joined by Great Lakes Today reporter Elizabeth Miller. Welcome to Ideas. Good to have you here, David. For the past 13 years, CLUE and the National Museum of the Great Lakes have teamed up to locate and identify shipwrecks in Lake Erie. Talk about the daunting research it takes and the time it takes to make a recovery.
It can take anywhere from a day to sit there and find a shipwreck, or we've had some like the Olwill here that have taken 20-some years to find out. But doing the research on the ship is normally where we start at, and that's really the key to doing it, is to go in and dig into the archives, dig into the newspaper accounts and any eyewitness accounts and government records, and try to find out exactly, as close as we can, where the ship went down at. So we've got an area to start searching in. Because normally, if you go out just searching blindly, it takes about 2 hours to search 1 square mile of the lake very effectively. And if you don't really really narrow the location down as to where you're going to search at, it can be a daunting task searching that much water.
And you said this ship was about 50 feet down, so there's plenty of opportunity to miss it, though.
They normally stick out pretty good in the lake. We're pretty good with that, but yeah, you have to be very careful. You can't sit there and really search out at real long distances to come in, so we do have to be careful when we're running our search lanes.
Elizabeth, give us some background on this particular find that happened.
Yeah, so the Margaret Olwill was built in 1887 in Cleveland, and for this particular trip, the Olwill was carrying limestone, 900 tons of limestone from Kelly's Island, so near South Bass and all of those islands over there in Lake Erie, to Cleveland. And it was also carrying 12 passengers. The ship got caught in a storm then, and then the captain tried to make a turn, and then the ship turned over and rolled over to one side. A Cleveland Plain Dealer article from the time, some of those historical accounts Dave was talking about, has some recollections from survivors. One of the crew members ended up underneath the boat and had to hold on to wreckage until another ship could come by and save him. The captain, his wife, his 9-year-old son, a family friend, and a cousin who was actually a crew member all died, along with 3 others. And then 4 crew members survived. The survivors are described by the Plain Dealer at the time as being closer to dead than alive. And I talked to the National Museum of the Great Lakes director, Chris Gilchrist, who said the story shows the dangers of the Great Lakes and of Lake Erie.
The process of deciding how to get this particular ship, what made you choose this location?
It was just from our research for what location that we searched for it at. It had very good locational information on it, and do that. We normally have a target list of ships we go after, shipwrecks that we're looking for,
right.
And that's based on the research that our crew's done over the year. Rob Richley is a good researcher, Tom Kowalczyk, and then our chief researcher, Jim Paskert. They know the archives and they know all the government records inside and out, and they go through and comb these, and we come up with a list of ships that we think would be interesting to find based on if we've got good locational information, and some of the times, especially if they've got a good story to go along with them.
Yeah, good stories are always wonderful.
Yeah, we've got some really great stories on it, and Olwill is a good story.
We made reference earlier to finding 3 ships out there. We don't know what the others are yet. How do you go about finding that out?
A lot of that goes when we go down, if we can find some identifying artifacts on the ship itself. A lot of people think you can go down and measure the length and the width of a ship and come up with exactly what the idea of the ship is. And that's not really true, because if you go out and try to measure a car, some of these cars differ by inches, and you really can't tell what make and model of the car is from that. It's the same with a shipwreck. If you measure that, and some of these they're all about the same size, they only differ by feet. So then you're looking for, okay, how many masts does it have? How many anchors does it have? Does it have any identifying marks like a figurehead that was carved into the bow of the boat?
Make the boat unique.
To make the boat unique. So we look for the unique identifying features of it. And then we can, the cargo and the location it sank in. So you take all of those as a whole and you put them all together, and it's kind of like doing forensic science in looking at these and putting an identification together.
Okay. The lake's conditions certainly can preserve the boat. There's no salt water, but at the same time, it's murky down there. It makes it difficult to take photographs, to do some of that work you're talking about.
Yes, it does. With the runoff from all the agriculture and everything, and all the nitrates that are in the lake, they feed the algae, and you've seen the algae blooms we've been having the last few years, and we've seen some of them that just turned the lake green. It's like somebody poured a bucket of paint in the lake. But with these going on right here, it tends to really cloud the viz up, and it really makes taking photographs and taking and actually sometimes being safe on a wreck to do it. If we're diving in challenging conditions like 1 or 2 foot of visibility, especially on a new wreck, one of the things that we run into, or we don't want to run into, is fish nets. And over the years, fishing, they used to drag the nets around and everything. They still do over in Canada, and the fishermen would snag a wreck, and a lot of times they weren't divers back then, because scuba diving is a relatively new sport for individuals to do, and they didn't send divers there. They just cut the nets loose and let them. They would sink back down and stay with the wreck. So if you're on a new wreck and you go back and you've only got 1 or 2 foot of viz, you've got to be very cognizant as you're swimming along that you don't swim into one and get yourself entangled.
Good point. Liz, another ship was found in Lake Michigan this week. Tell us about that one.
Yeah, a discovery was just announced in Lake Michigan, the Lizzie Throop, an 1873 wreck. It was on its way to Chicago and then sank during a storm. A lot of these Great Lakes ships, during storms, 2 of its 6 crewmen died, and that was announced by the Michigan Shipwreck Research Association.
So once we find out more, maybe we have to have they come back. David VanZandt, Elizabeth Miller, thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me.